Beer and Regulated Beverages Committee meeting. It is June 15th, 2021. And we will get started with our agenda. And before we get started, we do have some guests here with us today. And if anyone would like to address us and say a few words in regards to any information that we might need to hear, please, now is the time to do that. All right, I don't see anyone standing up, and that is fine. All right, so we will get started with our agenda. On the agenda, Resolution RS 2021-987 by Toombs and Rutherford adopts a new pay plan for employees of the Metro Departments of Police and Fire effective July 1, 2021.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Toombs has a proposed substitute.
Move the substitute.
All right, we'll move the substitute. Second, thank you. Any discussion on the substitute? Don't have any discussion.
You guys are all aware of the substitute?
Yeah.
Unless it's something I'm not aware of yet.
Okay.
I am not aware of the substitute,
It
so,
implements the
thank you.
additional funding in the substitute budget for the additional increment and 1% open range.
Okay, great. Thank you. I am a signer on this legislation, so we can move it forward without the lead sponsor here. Are there any questions or discussion on that explanation? All right, with that, we'll move for approval. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, all right, so we will move on to our next resolution. RS 2021-999 by Gamble approves a memorandum of understanding between the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, Metro Police Department, Metro Nashville Fire Department, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation as it relates to the Metro Nashville Arson and Explosives Task Force, which is a collective coordination of resources and assets to investigate the criminal misuse of fire and explosives in Nashville and surrounding areas. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Discussion. What does this do? This is a memorandum of agreement between organizations, and I'll just give us a little prelude, and then if Director Cooper would like to add, or anyone else in the room, to investigate the criminal misuse of explosives in Nashville. So this is a collaborative effort between MMPD, ATF, and the TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, to pool resources and assets together to investigate misuse or crimes related to explosives in Nashville. There is not a budget or funding for this memorandum of agreement. This is something that will just help in preventing crime related to fire, arsons, and explosives, and also solving crimes in those areas. Is there anything to add?
No, Metro Police typically were often partners with federal and state partners for various task forces. This is a new one, at least a new one to my knowledge, that is focused on explosives for our participation.
Yeah, it's assigned two members of our hazardous devices unit to this task force to work with ATF and TBI, which also have bomb investigators, and just to work collaboratively, share information, share resources with respect to investigating bombings.
Thank you. I'd just like to add, as a member of the After Action Bomber Review Board, this is is in line with one of the recommendations that the board had in having more communication and collaboration with these organizations to keep Nashville safer. So I think it's a great step in that direction, and I appreciate and support this legislation.
Just one quick comment. What I would say, having worked on task forces like this, collaboration is very important, and holes in investigations tend to occur when you don't have these kinds of collaborative processes. So I find these to be tremendously effective.
Thank you.
Thank you for recognizing me. I appreciate the information so far. I want to just may learn more for the benefit of the public of if this task force is being motivated either entirely or in part by the Christmas Day bombing, I think part of the process of being transparent with the public about what all's being done in response to it, I think it would be important to know whether we're at this has got absolutely nothing to do with it, or, oh yeah, we're joining this task force absolutely positively as part of the after-action review, or somewhere in between. I think that information, if we could hear more about that from the department, that would be great.
Yes, I haven't gotten any indication that this is a direct result of the after-action or the bombing incident at Christmas Day, but.
And just, I ask because it does appear to be a new involvement, and so it's, I think, a natural question.
Well, we have had people assigned to the ATF task force before, so that is not entirely new. We just haven't had one on the last few years that I recall. I can't speak to the exact origins of when it started, but I do know this particular MOU was going around back and forth discussions, at least in March. So
March this year.
yes. So I guess my point there is it wasn't necessarily in response to the commission report that came out, I don't know, a week or two ago, because this was being discussed months ago. But exactly when ATF approached us about it, or we just started a discussion with them, I don't know. I'd have to ask and find out.
Could we learn more about that? I think it's as Councilman Pulley said, I think this is, having Metro involved is really important, but one of the reasons why I think we voted unanimously to set up our own council commission was to make sure that the various things that happen inside departments, whether it's y'all or codes or public works or whoever, in response to the bombing, that there's a clear capturing of all that information so the public can be reassured and know what's happened. So I am curious about where this evolved from, because I think it's good for the public to know whether this was in the works before the bombing ever happened, or whether the police department reached out to ATF or the other way around after the bombing leading to the MOU.
Sure, I'll be happy to let you know that.
And how would, to give it to you as the committee chair, and you can share it with us?
That'll be fine, yes, if you could do
Sure.
that.
I appreciate that, thank you. You're welcome.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion?
Would you like that for tonight's meeting? Is that what you-
I mean, if it's an easy answer, I'd love to know it. I mean, I think our participation, I think the legislation is a good idea regardless. But I do think for the sake of the public, it's worth knowing and having a public record, even if it's just in their inboxes, about what the evolution of this was.
So if you are able to get an answer before our meeting tonight, that would be great to share it this evening. Thank you.
Interrupt the chief's dinner.
All right, any further discussion? And we will move for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And I neglected to say our attendance out loud, so let me do that now. Chair is present, Councilmember Nash is present, Porterfield is present, Pulley is present, Councilmember Roberts is present, and Councilmember Rosenberg and Taylor are present. So that is 7 in favor, 0 against. Right, moving on to our resolution, RS 2021-1000, approves a memorandum of understanding entered into by and between the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives and the Metro Nashville Police Department as it relates to the investigative team addressing neighborhood shootings and violent crime reduction task force to implement an effective and a sustainable intelligence-driven strategy to reduce gun-related violence in the Nashville metro area.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Yes.
Yes, can
Councilmember
MMPD explain what this is?
Sure. So this is another MOU between us and ATF. The difference is this one doesn't deal with hazardous devices. This is dealing with the work that is ongoing already with our Titans unit, which is our crime gun unit. So one of the strategies that we're really focused on is locating crime guns and who's involved in the violent crime in Nashville. That's an ongoing process utilizing NIBIN, which is an integrated ballistics system where we check shell casings and we tie crimes together. And so this would assign, I believe it's 8 MMPD officers to this task force. The ATF is assigning 6 of their agents to the task force just to further those investigations, because a lot of times crime guns tend to also flow across state lines and outside of jurisdictions. And of course, they can assist with things like tracing and stuff like that, and federal prosecutions as well.
Is this pulling those officers off the street, or are they doing this in tandem with what they're already doing?
They are actually doing what they were already doing. It's just basically expanding their capabilities by adding some federal resources to that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Further discussion? All right, with no further discussion, we'll move for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you. And moving on to RS 2021-1001, Toombs and Gamble accepts a grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration, the Office of Criminal Justice Programs, to the Metro Nashville Police Department to reimburse costs associated with the response to the Christmas Day bombing on 2nd Avenue. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
What's the amount of the grant?
I have that here.
143,000.
Okay. Thank you kindly.
No, I'm sorry, Christmas Day bombing
Right,
is
the
$1,955.
Thank you.
All right, and these costs include regular and overtime personnel costs for site security and investigation. Further discussion?
Happy for the grant.
We're thankful for our money.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, and moving on to RS 1002, approves an application for a Project Safe Neighborhood grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration to the Metro Police Department to reduce gun violence.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, any discussion? Porterfield?
No questions at the moment.
Do we, these Project Safe Neighbor grants have been out there since I was at the department. Do we know what we're gonna do with this one?
So this is a continuation of a grant that we've done in the past, and it's utilizing those same Titans teams that I talked about before. It funds the overtime for the work that those officers do in relation to those crime gun investigations, utilizing NIBIN.
Thank you.
And the amount of that grant is the,
The 143,732.
thank you. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, and moving on to our last agenda item, Resolution RS 2021-1003, accepts a grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Office of Emergency Management to provide resources to procure items, training, and/or equipment for hazardous materials. May I have a motion? Thank you. Any discussion?
Just one question. What type of equipment is needed for hazmat? Are those, is what outside of like hazmat suits, like what other equipment might that be?
I believe this is,
These are simulators, things that are used for training for new incoming hazmat techs.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? I do have a question. Does this replace what we have, or does it add to what we need?
I believe it adds to what we need.
And it's only around materials for hazmat preparedness? Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.
Chair.
Good job, Chair. Thank you.
I always have a million questions.